Hello everyone, and welcome back to Monsters of the Past. As always, I'm your host, Mr.G, and today we're talking about the famous sailback lizard, well, the second most famous sailback lizard, Dimetrodon. Dimetrodon means two measured teeth, referring to the fact that its teeth come in two different measurements. It was a member of the Sphenocodontidae family, and it was a carnivore that lived during the early Permian, and its remains have been found in the United States and Germany. Dimetrodons came in a variety of species and came in all shapes and sizes, but the most famous species was around 13 feet long, making it the size of a tiger. Dimetrodon is the most famous example of a proto-mammal, which were formerly known as mammal-like reptiles, but that name is no longer used due to the fact that most of them can't really be classified as reptiles. As a proto-mammal, there is a lot of speculation as to what it may have looked like and how far its mammalian traits went, with some scientists theorizing that they may have had hair, or gave live birth, and maybe even had proto-milk glands, but these are still up for debate until we find more concrete evidence. The most notable thing about Dimetrodon, and the thing that made it famous, was the fact that adorning its back was a large sail, which is a structure that has baffled paleontologists ever since it was discovered. For the longest time, most paleontologists thought that it was a thermoregulation tool, but in the 2010s, researchers started to doubt that, pointing out that the way its sail grows throughout its life would have been inconvenient as a thermoregulation device. Another theory that's been getting popular in recent years is the idea that the sail was a form of sexual dimorphism, with males having both a taller sail and being larger in general. However, because it's extinct, we may never have a concrete answer as to the function of the spines. Contrary to popular belief, Dimetrodon was not a dinosaur at all. As I said earlier, it was a type of proto-mammal, meaning it was closer related to you than it was to T-Rex and stuff like that. Also, it was a swamp dweller and not a desert dweller as it's usually portrayed in pop culture. And also, its sail didn't even reach all the way to the top, leaving some exposed tips. There was a brief period where people thought it only had half a sail, but that theory got discredited, and now it's agreed that only the tips were exposed. Now that we got all that out of the way, let's look at the card. Okay, problem number 1. It only lists a single species of Dimetrodon, even though there were multiple species of Dimetrodons. Problem number 2. Its tips aren't exposed. Problem number 3. Its scales are way too big, even though most paleontologists agree that it would have had more like mammalian skin rather than reptilian scales. Problem number 4. Throughout the card, it refers to it as a reptile, even though it was more closer related to mammals than to actual reptiles. Fifthly, it makes objective claims out of the function of its sail, which is a problem that, as I stated earlier in the series, is a problem that the series has a lot, where they list claims as objective fact instead of the theories that they are. And the final problem is that this card portrays Dimetrodon as a desert dweller rather than a swamp dweller. Because of all these errors, I'm giving this card a 4 out of 10. Now let's look at some of Dimetrodon's appearances in pop culture. In the Jurassic Park franchise, Dimetrodon has yet to appear on screen in the flesh. However, in the 5th film, some taxidermy Dimetrodons can be seen in the background of some scenes. Before that, Dimetrodons appeared in plenty of the franchise's video games, such as the NES game, Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder, and Jurassic World the game. Dimetrodon appeared during the Rite of Spring segment of Fantasia, which is probably one of the first examples of pop culture portraying it as living with the dinosaurs. Dimetrodon appeared in Land Before Time, where once again it's erroneously placed during the Age of the Dinosaurs, and it also flicks its tongue in and out like a lizard. Dimetrodon was the subject of an episode of Walking with Monsters, where they basically act exactly like prehistoric Komodo dragons. They're an adoptable animal in Zoo Tycoon 2, which is probably the only time I can think of where they're portrayed as swamp dwellers instead of desert dwellers. And finally, Dimetrodon appears as a tameable animal in the video game Ark Survival Evolved, where its gimmick is that it's a living air conditioner. This is also one of the few times I can think of where it's portrayed as a swamp dweller instead of a desert dweller. That's all for this episode of Monsters of the Past. Join me next time when I do a double feature. I'll explain more why in the video. Bye!